Thank you for joining For Our Special Kids, where we openly and honestly discuss the magic and the mess of raising a child with special needs. We are thrilled to have you here and hope this time provides you with some wonder and wisdom. I'm your host, Jennifer Lansing. Let's get started. Last week, we spoke with Eli Harwood, the attachment nerd, about sexual abuse and trauma. This week, we are speaking with Jayneen Sanders, an author and publisher of books designed to help families and educators address the issue of abuse and body awareness. It's perfect timing. In today's episode, we talk about everything from body safety and the words to use when asking for permission from our kids. For example, I love it when Jayneen gave me an example of when an aunt or a grandmother or anyone really walks up to your child, and instead of just assuming they want to give you a hug, you can say, "How would you like me to greet you today?" And it might be a fist bump, it might be a high five, it might be anything. It just might be anything. So I just thought that was a really good example of today's episode, as Jayneen gives us a lot of really tangible ways to work with our children and strangers and educators, etc. We also talk about respect for self and others, her amazing new book called Included, and also how her daughter Isabel's experiences with a boy named Luca have helped to shape much of Jayneen's forward motion within our community of special needs. There's a lot of hope in this world, and we as parents set the stage for what is and what isn't accepted in our homes and schools. So I hope you take away some phrases that will help you to change our world. I hope you enjoy, and let me know what you think. I am with Jayneen Sanders, also known as Jay Dale. She is an experienced early years educator, author, publisher, and blogger. Jayneen writes children's books on body safety, consent, gender equality, respectful relationships, and social and emotional intelligence. She believes empowering children from an early age makes for empowered teenagers and adults. Jayneen is lead author for the children's literacy series Engage Literacy, published by Capstone, and has written over 130 titles for that series. Goodness me. Jayneen is most importantly a mother of 3 daughters and has always advocated for their empowerment. Her ongoing passion for the safety and empowerment of children continues today with new manuscripts and free to download resources always in the wings. Jayneen's work can be found at e2epublishing.info and on Amazon. Jayneen, thank you so very much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk about your books and everything that you're doing to open people's eyes to body safety and awareness.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jen.
Yes.
Very, very happy to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. It took us long enough. I kind of dropped the ball a couple of times, you guys. Anyway, so tell us where you are right now. You're in Australia.
Yes, I'm in Australia. We live just outside of Melbourne, about an hour out. My husband and I work together and we run a small publishing company.
Well, let's talk about your early education experience. I think it's always cool to find out how people got to where they are and what influenced them along that road. So will you talk with us a little bit about how you got into writing and publishing from the early education years?
Well, I've always been a reader and I love that. And I was trained as a teacher and I worked with kids. And I think, I don't know, writing just seemed a natural progress. So when I came to Melbourne, I'm actually from Queensland, which is up the north of Australia. And I came to Melbourne as a young woman. I was about 24. And I got into educational publishing. So I became an editor. And I read lots of books with that and I worked with that. And that was really great. And then my husband and I, who I had met at that time, we went across to Japan and we worked over there for 3.5 years. And my first daughter was born there. Jessica.
Oh, wow.
She's a social worker and a writer.
Yes.
Anyway, when we got back, having a child, I thought, look, I really need to work from home. So I started then writing stories and they were becoming published because of my connections with the publishers. And yeah, so it all sort of started from there. And then probably about 12 years ago when we actually had 3 daughters by then, I went to the children's school and said, you guys, are you teaching body safety? Are because this is really important. I'm not a survivor of sexual abuse, but, are you teaching body safety education? And everybody felt really uncomfortable, I could tell. They didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I
that's
went
very
home,
honest. Yeah.
So I went home and I said to my husband, I'm going to use my skills as a writer and I'll write a book. So then people will take note of this very important issue. And so I wrote Some Secret Should Never Be Kept. And then we tried to get someone to publish it. We tried 3 publishers. Nobody wanted to publish it. So that's when we started our own small publishing company so we could publish it ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. And so the number one reason people didn't want to publish it was, I'm assuming I know, but.
Yeah, it was because it was about preventing sexual abuse of children in a very age appropriate, beautifully illustrated way, nothing scary. In fact, that book, if your child has never been abused, it's just another story and they'll have a lot of empathy for the little boy. But if your child has been abused, you will probably get a disclosure. In fact, there's a state government in Australia who use that with social workers, that book, specifically to when they're working with children who they believe may have been sexually abused, to kind of get them over the line and to get a disclosure. Yeah.
Yeah, I read quite a few of your books and I think I wrote you in the email, I want to buy these for everybody, like for the schools, because I think in the right setting, it's so empowering to give children a voice, whether or not they're somewhat verbal-ish like Teal, or if they are able to talk about it. Having a story helps them put words to what they're feeling.
But, the biggest block to all of this is adults and their fear of this topic. And they don't understand that their fear is actually putting children totally at risk. Like it's extraordinary how, we know 1 in 5 girls, 1 in 8 boys are sexually abused before 18. And that's only the reported cases. So when a parent or a teacher says, I don't think I want to teach that, it doesn't seem right, they're actually putting them at risk, because when we teach body safety, it's very age appropriate. It's all about empowerment. Like I can say no, or, I have a safety network I can talk to, or I understand when I have early warning signs and what to do about it. It's all age appropriate. I mean, when we teach water safety, when we teach road safety, we don't show them graphic images. So it's the same as when we teach body safety. There is nothing graphic. There is nothing talking about the actual act of sexual abuse. But yet, time and time again, schools will not teach this. Parents will not teach this. And, those perpetrators just go on and keep on abusing our children. So,
it's one of those things where I guess my theory is I don't ever want to look back and say I didn't teach her. And now look where we're at. But if we talk about it and we're open about it, saying, like, I think I read it in your book, and I've heard Eli Harwood talk about the attachment nerd as well, how under your swimming suit is not an okay place for people to touch. That's very tangible for children. It's very tangible. They understand this is my swimming suit and I shouldn't be touched under my swimming suit. Now,
and what to,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And what to do if they are touched. So we know that, everybody, if there's any kind of sexual assault, may freeze. They may not be able to do anything. But the default for children is go tell someone you trust. So therefore, as adults, we need to educate ourselves around this topic so we believe the child. I mean, you imagine the courage to say, uncle, he touched my vagina, which we should be using the correct names as well.
Agreed.
And the courage to do that, and then have someone turn around and say, what? Ridiculous. He would never do that. Like, they're never going to tell again. So we need to educate ourselves to say, okay, what are the statistics? What does grooming look like? What are all these things that are happening? And then we'll believe a child if they do disclose to us.
Yeah.
It's just so important. I can't, express enough how important this education is. It's the most important thing, because people who are survivors say to me, if only they had known from that very first touch that it was wrong, their lives would be completely different. And some people would still even be here. So, I think age appropriate, simple body safety education. And I have a free poster. It's called My Body Safety Rules. And it's in maybe 17 to 20 languages. I'm not sure how many now.
Wow.
And it's free to download. So you imagine if you have that poster with your child's body safety rules on the refrigerator in your house and a perpetrator comes in. Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to go, okay, that kid is learning body safety. Uh-oh, that kid is educated to tell. Uh-oh, that kid's not going to be on my radar. And so your child is, it's going to be a lot safer for your child. So it's just drives me nuts.
I'm sure it does, because, you were saying before we started recording that you said 2.2 times more likely a child with a special need. Mm-hmm. So that's 1 in 8 girls or 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 8 boys that are neurologically typical will be in some sort of a sexually traumatic situation, because all of it's not the same, right? Not everyone is abused or traumatized the same way, but it still exists. And then I think it makes me sad. So 2.2 times more likely.
So that's nearly, is that 1 in 2?
Oh goodness. Yeah. Because if it's 20%, I mean,
if it's a girl.
20% if it's a girl. And then it's almost 50%. If we're doing our math right.
Yeah. And that's just, we know of, Jen. So, check carefully who is caring for your child. Check very carefully and go through what that you expect of them. Go through okay, we teach body safety and this is what it means.
Yes.
When you interact with my child, you need to always ask for consent. And maybe they're not verbal, but I don't really care. You still ask for consent, and they may show you, or I will show you if they are saying it's okay. Right. You always check in with them. Oh, is this okay? Are you still okay with this? This is the language you need to use with my child. If you are, and tell them you're onto it. We teach body safety. We're doing this. So ensure that your carers and your teachers are using this kind of language with your child. Please.
Right. Well, and it's something just so simple of, giving a hug. If you don't want to give a hug, it's okay if you say no. If you don't want to give someone a kiss, it's okay. Like grandma, you don't have to give grandma a kiss. And I teach that. I'm very open with Teal and all of our family and teachers about that. But we haven't ever talked about what, I'm really sad. I mean, my daughter is almost 7 and I'm like, good golly.
Oh, that's okay, Jen. But you need to, when you have family and friends and teachers, they need to ask Teal,
yes,
how would you like me to greet you today? And, she may be able to show an elbow bump, or she may put her hands out for a hug, but ask her, give her that autonomy. When so much autonomy is taken away from her, particularly children with special needs, autonomy is taken away from them all the time. So ask, check in, be respectful of their space and their body. And, this is really, really important. And anyone who's not, then they're not the right carer for your child.
Correct.
They're absolutely not the right carer. And I'm really sorry to say this, Jen, but perpetrators will go where the loopholes are, and perpetrators will go where there's vulnerability, and perpetrators will go where there's fear on an adult's part, because they're very manipulative and they can work it out. And that's another thing too. I'll tell you another statistic. If you are a single parent, your child is 22 times more likely to be sexually abused. because perpetrators will choose single mums who are so busy and they've got 3 kids and they're just snowed under and they're trying to work, and they will like, look, I'm going to be there to help you. I'm the really friendly person. They will target single mums.
I never thought about that. Okay, you guys, if you're listening and you know someone that's single that has kids, you got to make sure they listen to this. Like, this isn't just about children with special needs, right? Yes, I want to talk with you about inclusion and what you're doing, because a lot of your books are about that.
Yeah.
Whether it's skin color or wheelchair or walker or a diagnosis. It's about inclusion, but also I want this whole podcast to be inclusive. This isn't just for,
yeah. But look, I think parents of, and it's a great opportunity. So you've got parents who have kids with special needs. So please ask your teachers, ask your carers, what are you doing? Do you know about body safety? Do you know about consent? Oh, I'm going to give you some information on this because this is what I'm teaching my child right now. And I would like you to be part of this and on board with us about this. And that we can, and she will know, or he will know as they grow older, what to expect of other carers when I may not be there. So, if a carer just pushes their arm around and doesn't ask for consent at all, they can verbally, if they're verbal, say, hey, you need to ask for my consent. So this is empowering your child, which is empowering your teenager, which is empowering them as an adult when you may not be there. So I just would really like to ask people to educate themselves and then make sure that the carers and the people who are with their children are also on board and are educated around body safety and consent, particularly the language of consent.
Well, and I'm thinking as you're talking, it would be very easy for me to put on Teal's talking board. Please ask for my consent. She knows where no is and yes is, but that's a different, instead of just saying no, I like that. Please ask for my consent. We've done that a lot with her friends at school who just come up and pat her head or come up and just give her a hug. Her aide at school is very good at saying, no, you guys have to ask. And Teal is the same age, but I need to empower Teal because like what you just said, we're not always going to be with her.
No, you're not. And she might go to swimming classes and, in swimming classes, their bodies are handled a lot. So you need to say, can I lift you into the water? And, she can nod. So put you in the water.
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Can I move your arm now? Like constantly checking in, constantly asking. And as I said, knowing they're not verbal, there may be a nod or some kind of indication, or even just rigid body might mean no, right?
Yes.
So I can't emphasize enough how much to ask and check in with your child as they are doing activities. And, they may be doing some kind of sport activity where they need to be lifted into a chair or whatever. So these coaches and people who are doing the sport activities with them need to be respectful and mindful as well.
Absolutely. With every child, not just a child with special needs. Exactly.
Absolutely. Every child. Hence why, I do the work I do and try to educate. Like my books are for educating the child. I do have one for parents, carers, called Body Safety Education, which is great. But mostly my books are for children. But, they read them with adults. So, they're books for adults too, actually, because they're reading, discussing that book together. So therefore, the parent is also gaining the knowledge about how to interact with that child, what that child will expect of them. However, the parent still needs to educate themselves about grooming and about the statistics and about what to look out for if a child is being sexually abused, like the kind of things that they might indicate that there's something going on for them. The red flags, basically.
What would be some of those red flags?
For probably a neurotypical kind of kid, it would be a sore tummy, doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to stay at uncle's house, gets really angry a lot or gets very sad, is out of character. They're not their usual happy self around that person. trying to make themselves smaller, or more that they're angry and run away, just symptoms in their body, so they just don't want to go. And so if your child says, no, I don't want to go to uncle's today, no, I don't, listen, don't force them, don't make them go because there's something going on. Why? And you have to ask why. Then there's more obvious ones, like there might be a discharge or a smelly, or wetting the bed again, and wetting themselves at school, or wetting themselves where they need to go to somebody's house. They might not want you to dress them or come into their bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I still, at times, will clean Teal up. Sometimes we have accidents. And I always check, very clearly every area, every orifice, just because. And some people might think I'm weird to do that, but I feel like it's my job as a mom just to make sure that everything is fine. But I also will then identify body parts while we're talking about it. Like, yes. Okay,
and ask,
mama's just going to look at your anus, using that word.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? That's a really good point, because then I don't do that. I don't take that a next step. So thank you for that. I will dramatically change my communication, because, Teal trusts me explicitly. But at the same time, that's why I have to build that with someone you trust. So,
and it's also an expectation that adults, when they work with her, when they interact with her, they will also be checking in and asking if it's okay.
Okay.
Because she trusts you,
Yeah.
and she'll have that kind of innocence of trusting you. So then you go away for a couple of days and a new person comes in. She's also trusting that person, because, adults are trustworthy. You're trustworthy.
Right.
So therefore, instead of putting fear into her about adults, you need to make sure you're modeling the same kind of language that she will then expect of other adults who interact with her, and particularly her body. Okay. And her mouth is a private part as well.
Yes.
So when you're cleaning her teeth, if you need to clean her teeth, you say, can you please open your mouth? It is okay if I clean your teeth right now, and constantly having that chatting to her.
Really good information for me. I'm like, oh crap, I thought I was doing so well. Okay, that's good. All right. So let's transition a little bit into some of your other books. Which ones are you most excited about? Which ones were hardest to write? I'd love just some insight from you.
Well, I'm very excited about my latest book, which is
Let me see it. Included. Yes, that's actually why I reached out to you originally.
Yes, it is. Because Included came about because my youngest daughter, Isabel, she works with children with disability. She implements what the physio asks her to do. She's not a physio, but it's called Kids Pro. So she will do like walking on beams, or throwing bean bags, or doing different things to help mobilize the children. So that's her job. But she's also just started her Master's of OT. So she's going to be an occupational therapist. She was telling me about the kids when she takes them to the playground, and how other kids don't actually interact with them and play with them. And I was so sad. I was really sad, because she said, the little boy was sitting there and nobody was actually interacting or asking to play. And it made me really sad. So I decided to go in this like I often do. And I've chosen 6 kids with 6 disabilities. So we have autism, hearing disability, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, limb difference, ADHD. I know that's not everybody, but it covers a few. And so I introduce each child. And this book really is for neurotypical kids to know how to include everybody into their play. And often it's as simple as, would you like to play? Yep. It's as simple as that. But understanding a little bit about their disability, but I don't go there too much. And then just simply encouraging them to ask them to play, and how to include them in their lives and in their play. So that's what that book's about.
Yeah, you did a really good job, if I do say so myself. Sorry. But
have you read the book?
Oh, yeah. I read that one for sure.
Okay.
I think that was probably the first one that I read. And you give really good descriptions of the children. And then I love how you then just talk about what their standard, like they like to play with
Yeah.
balls, and this one likes to dance, and that one loves music. And I mean, and it's just like, oh, look. And then I really enjoy how then you have the prompting questions, which is a common theme for your book on books, where there's
Yes.
a question for the adult to ask the child, but you ask them, well, what do you like to play with? Or what music do you like to listen to? And so
Mm.
you're creating this, we're equal. We're
Yeah.
all the
Bringing
same. We have
them. Yeah.
some
We're all the
differences,
same.
but we're all the same.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah.
that's exactly right. And sort of bringing them into the conversation, bringing their feelings or their experiences into the conversation so that they feel part of that.
You talk about the playground.
Mm.
Do you know that is one of the hardest places for parents to take children with special needs?
Yeah. Yeah.
One,
Yeah.
because they aren't
Yeah.
inclusive. There's even in our
Sorry about
playground
this.
here, there's a ton of wood bark and things that kids can't, like for Teal used to walk around on her knees until November. I mean, she couldn't walk around in all of those, the
Mm.
wood bark. So one, that was
Mm.
just hard physically taking her there. But then seeing children much younger than her doing things and then not including her or staring or
Mm.
it's heartbreaking for so many
Mm.
of us as parents. It's just heartbreaking.
Hence why I wrote that book, because it really is a book for all children, and there's 8 lesson plans to go with that. So you could take this book with the 8 lesson plans or just this book and read it in the classroom, and the whole attitude in the classroom will probably change towards your child with special needs. So, I mean, teacher should read this book. I mean, I know she's included and your teacher would probably be pretty good. But what about all the other classes? They could read this book too. So they have some kind of understanding. Kids with a disability are just like kids everywhere.
Yep.
They have things they love. They have things they're good at. They have things they need to work on. There's no difference in a way. It's just we're all different. So
Yeah.
this is just part of the whole spectrum of life. I'm really proud of that book, and I think it needs to get out there a little bit more than it is, really, because I'm kind of quite known for the body safety area, which is great, and the consent. But I also feel very passionately about that, hence why I think I will be working on some other things for special needs kids as well. And the other book that I love,
Yes, tell
the
me.
other book is Hope.
Oh, I haven't read this one.
Well, it's for kids in domestic violence homes.
Okay.
So it's about a mum and a child in a domestic violence where the father's quite violent, and how for children not to blame themselves and what they can do in order to keep safe. So that was a really tricky one too, but I worked with two organisations that deal with domestic violence, because we lose one woman a week in Australia with our small population to domestic violence. One woman a week. So I think there's probably, in the first 24 weeks, there's been 24 deaths of women in Australia.
Wow.
Domestic violence is very, very rife here. It's shocking. And most call outs from police about domestic violence. And people forget about the children who are there cowering in the corner, who see it all, who think that they've done something wrong. Why is dad so angry? What have I done wrong? So I'm very proud of that book as well. And it has a little safety plan in the back that we developed. It's very important for domestic violence shelters and people who work in that area.
You're picking some very tough concepts, Jayneen. I mean,
Good.
seriously,
Good.
exactly. It's very good. It's very good. And the visuals are really beautiful. The children are approachable, and it's all of the illustrations are just really engaging. And so it doesn't feel like you're reading a horribly heavy book. It's just,
no, thank you.
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is the word inclusion. And I actually, the episode that we launched today or yesterday is with Inclusion Films with Joey Travolta. And he has a company called Inclusion Films. And I mentioned that I think the word inclusion is overused. I think people use it, but they don't know how to implement it. And what's really nice about your books, especially the book you mentioned included, is it gives the children, and truthfully, we need to write one for parents to approach parents that have children with special needs and how they can help them feel included because
Yeah,
we get stigmatized a lot just because we have a child with special needs. We get excluded because parents
right.
don't know how to ask. They don't know how to talk about it. They're uncomfortable. I never even thought about that until right now. That needs to be a book that's for adults. But what you've done in the book included is given the children tangible ways to just do it. And hopefully as they get older, and I love how you say you build a child, you build a teen, you build an adult, you teach them now, you get adults that are much more
Yeah.
willing to talk about it. But at the same time, it's just hopefully we see them going into middle school, not having to worry about what do I say?
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah.
approach this person? How do I ask them if they want to hang out at my house later? Right. Because as they become middle,
Yeah.
they're not going to be like, do you want to come over and play at 13? They're going to say, hey, do you want to come over and hang out? I just really hope that more people can see the messages that you're trying to put out there.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that I can come in, and I think, I've come in like with empathy, with body safety, with inclusion and diversity, with this smaller, younger group of people. And if teachers are using my books in their classroom and modeling what I'm saying as well, then that cohort of children coming through who have had these kinds of stories and books, and there's a lot more than mine out there as well, are empathetic, are compassionate, are inclusive, do embrace diversity as they come through into teenagerhood, into adulthood, and become parents themselves. So I feel hopeful that maybe society can move a little bit more along. And, we are their children's first models. So you're saying how sad it is that other adults don't know how to include you in the conversation with your child. And that is modeled to their children. That is modeled, that awkwardness and that, oh, we don't know what to say, to their children. And that's not good. I mean, that is not good.
No.
So let's hope, particularly our teachers are very important in this space. They need to be open-minded and they need to embrace diversity and inclusion and read these kinds of books, not just mine, all kinds of books, so that we have this cohort going through that just everybody's different and that's okay.
Yeah, it's
That's
what
okay.
makes us beautiful. If we were all the same, how boring would our life be?
Yeah. And I remember Isabel saying to me, my youngest, saying to me, a disability in a child is just what's normal for them. That's normality. There's nothing abnormal about it because it's normal. And that's hard to put into words in a way with people to understand.
It's very powerful, however, to realize that she is beginning to see that she's different, but that doesn't mean that this isn't her normal. This is all she knows.
The key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, the child who's her friend, her normal or his normal might be they've got red hair and freckles. That's their normal.
Right.
Okay. Or they're not very good at running, but they're great at trumpet. That's their normal. So we just need to think about that. And my daughter Jess, who is also a writer, she's written a book called Love Your Body because she's a very tall woman. She's 6 foot. And, she has always, people have always felt that they could comment on her body. Oh, you're so tall. You're so tall. And it wasn't good as a young woman, as a teenager. But she had a message to say to young women, particularly, love your body. It's your body. Whatever's normal is normal for you, and embrace your body for all the things that it can do rather than what it can't do. And so, yeah, she's written that book.
That sounds very powerful. I love that.
It is powerful.
Yeah.
And she has every kind of person in her book. Cellulite, or they're in a wheelchair, or they're limb different, or they, have a big body or big breasts. And she makes sure in the illustrations there's all kinds of bodies, which is great.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy that you took some time to talk with us because what you're doing is hugely valuable for everybody, for every person, for everybody. Exactly. This isn't just about special needs. This isn't just about parenting. This is about being a good human being and embracing our world and the diversity within it. And as you were chatting, about children growing and evolving. I do believe that the children today are far more accepting than the children when I was growing up 40 plus years ago.
I have great hope in the generation coming through and their kind of parenting they will do with their kids as well to have much more diverse society. I mean, we have to.
We have to.
I mean, we can't go back. We just have to, because there is such a colorful, amazing group of people in the world, and everybody has the right to be who they want to be. And I'm always advocating for that. And I think the kids coming through, I'm hoping through our education systems as well, that will be really, really, a goal. Yes. To understand that everyone is different and to embrace that. Yeah, it's kind of a transition period.
We're transitioning. That's beautiful. We are. And we have to believe in that. And your books are doing they're just paving a path for people to just step right behind you and support you and teach and use better words and educate and all of those things. So thank you so very much for writing them and being a part of this journey that we're all on.
Thank you so much.
I have one final question for you.
Yeah, sure.
And that is, what is one magical moment that you have had with a child with special needs?
Okay, so it was only on FaceTime with a little boy, Luca, who Isabel looks after. And she and he were talking to me, and he looked up at Isabel and he said, "I love you, Isabel." And it was so special because he can't move very much. He can't do much with his body. He is verbal. So we were chatting away and he said that. And also his name is Luca, and I've dedicated, I'll just show you. I have a fun book coming up. Yay. Fun book.
One of 400 that you've written. Goodness me.
This is called Everyone's Invited.
Oh, everyone's invited.
Yeah. Oh. And the subtitle is A Book About Inclusion, Diversity, Equality, Community, Empathy, and Celebrating Us. And I've dedicated the book to Luca and his brother. Isabel telling me about Luca and his life has really influenced why I wrote Included and why I've got Everyone's Invited as well. But Everyone's Invited is a little bit lighter. It's sort of in a ryming kind of jolly way. Yeah. But it is about everyone being included.
And the pictures, the colors are so beautiful.
Yeah, the colors are like rainbows.
Rainbows, exactly. Oh, I caught that. I caught that. Everyone's invited to the party. Oh, very cool. Well, thank you so very much, Jayneen. I really appreciate your time today. And I encourage everyone to go to your website. We'll put all of that in the show notes. But if you'd like to give a shout out for how people can contact you, that would be great. Sure.
Okay, so basically we sell our books in the US through Amazon, but if you're in Australia, you can buy directly from us from the website, which is www.epublishing.info. On that website, though, for people in the US or the UK, there are heaps of free resources. So I put out a lot of free posters and activities and things that you can do. Videos. There's one on body safety rules, little video, which they say people are always telling me is really good for kids who are autistic. So that's a great little video. So there's a lot of free things as well. Oh, and I'm on Instagram as well. Jayneen Sanders, author, and also Educate to Empower.
Educate to Empower. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate your time, and I can't wait for people to get their hands on your books. Thanks, Jayneen.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found one or two meaningful nuggets of information to make your day better. If you think there's value in what we do, please take a moment to tell another friend, family member, or a caregiver. We'd love to hear from you at forourspecialkids@gmail.com. You can send in a question, a comment, a topic that you'd like to learn more about, or if you'd like us to highlight a certain person, please send that information to us. It makes our show so much better and so much more valuable for you. Our Facebook and Instagram handle is For Our Special Kids. And finally, remember to witness the wonder and the wisdom within yourself and others. Until next time.